All right, thank you everybody for being here. This is the first time I think we've done this on our YouTube channel, but I think it's a good time to do it. 1 year, seems hard to believe, since those 19 young men lost their lives in the Yarnell Hill wildfire. And I thought we'd just get together and talk about a little bit our experiences. We were all there here in the station covering it that day. Linda, some of your thoughts, maybe you can start off.
I think it was the first time that I ever sent out a tweet that I hoped wasn't true. And before I hit tweet, send, and it was a simple tweet. It just said, confirmed, all 19 Granite Mountain hotshots are dead. And I sent it, and I just kind of sat back, and I thought, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah. So, I mean, how'd you hear about it?
Well,
we had a lot of backdoor sources, but before we sent it out there, we had one official source, not on the record, but we had a young woman who worked here at the station who knew someone on the line who had tweeted her. We already knew they were missing. We knew the 19 were missing, but he had said that they had been found and none of them had survived. And that flew in the face of what we'd heard because they had come out and said they've been located. But we've been doing this a long time, and they left out one word. They did not say they've been located alive. They just said they've been located.
Right.
And I thought, uh-oh.
But at first, when we heard that, it seemed inconceivable to think that all of them wouldn't survive this. So we didn't really think that it meant what it meant. We thought, they're okay, they're just in an area where they can't get to them. And of course, that didn't end up being true. But at the beginning of the 5 o'clock newscast, we were just reporting on the fire, the progress of the fire, how it had grown. It really took off that day.
Right.
We didn't have any idea of what was going on as far as with the Granite Mountain hotshots until a little bit later on, closer to about 7 o'clock that night.
So this was a Sunday night, and you two were anchoring the newscast at 5 o'clock, and you knew something was going on there, but you didn't get your confirmation until later. And that's kind of when I came into it, is I got a phone call from our boss here. And you don't get those very often on your days off.
Right.
No, you see that number come up and you're thinking it must be something big
so what's
and
going
bad.
on? And I wasn't tuning in to any news that day. I forget, I was out doing something, golfing or something, I forget, but I was sitting down with my daughter, and we were just getting started to make dinner, my younger daughter. And so I picked up the phone, and my boss said, hey, have you heard about what's going on? And I said, no. You know, my heart dropped. I'm like, what is it? And when he told me, I just, like you said, it's one of those moments that you don't forget because you're thinking, how? How's that happen? You know, and we all have a lot of experience with firefighters. I hang out with those guys quite a bit. You know, Phoenix firefighters and wildland firefighters, and they're the coolest group of guys, right? Aren't they like the coolest guys? And they're always joking around and messing around. But when you get on a scene and you get around them when they're really working, everything changes.
Absolutely.
Don't you think?
It's all business.
It does, and that was one of my first thoughts is, how could this happen? Because we were all here for the Dude Fire when we lost, I think, 6 hotshots up fighting the Dude Fire, and I remember thinking, I know this didn't happen again. I know they learned so much from the Dude Fire, and I know how good and serious they are, and I know that this can't be true. That's why we worked so hard in terms of confirming that all 19 of them were, in fact, had perished.
And going up to Prescott in the days after this, where the memorial grew at the fire station, where the Granite Mountain hotshots cars were still there. You know, they went to work that day to fight this fire, and it was just so somber and so sad to be there. But the people in Prescott were just so nice to all of us and really made everybody feel welcome. It became sort of a gathering spot for people who wanted to tell the families how much these firefighters meant to them, people whose property they were trying to protect and keep them safe. And so it really was, it was very sad, but it was also nice to see so many people who were coming from all across the state. In fact, a lot of people coming from out of state to tell the family members how much they meant to them and pay their tribute to these firefighters.
There aren't a lot of stories, you know, we've all been doing this a long time. There aren't a lot of stories where you're fighting your own emotions. But I remember that night when we went on the air, I believe we went on early, didn't we?
We did.
8 o'clock or something like that? Or
we broke in around 7, I think, and then we continued going.
Kind of kept going. But I remember one of the first interviews I did was with the guy who you know very well, Russ Dodge.
Absolutely.
Who's a paramedic with DPS. And it's just, you know, talk about a rock solid guy. And he is
former Marine, I mean, the whole 9 yards.
He's seen everything. And so he flew over it that day, and he was really shaken up. We got him on the air, and just listening to him made me catch a little bit. And I'll never forget when he said, I don't remember if it was before we were on the air or when I was talking to him after, but he said, you know, these were young guys, like really young. And he said a lot of them have little kids, and a lot of them are the sons of firefighters. he says, so this is going to really shake this community.
And I think it was on Monday, the day after, when you talk about the ages and the firefighters, and we actually got to put faces to the names, the ages, family situations. Some of them were newlyweds, some of them just had babies, and to see all 19 of them, that really took your breath away. I mean, that talk about showing you exactly what this tragedy looked like. It was that first time we saw all their pictures.
For me, it was when Governor Brewer was talking and the emotion, you could hear the tears coming up in her voice. That's when I started saying, okay, Linda, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. But, you know, I cried all the way home. Everyone on Facebook is like, boy, you really hung in there. But I said, you know what? Cried all the way home.
Well, and we, you know, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff that happens, you know, with the news, putting it all together, and it was one of those times where, you know, we're having to get the information across and kind of hold it together. But we talked when you got home that night. We talked for about an hour on the phone, just to, you know, kind of process everything that actually had happened, because it just happened so quickly, and then we're on the air for 3 hours, 3.5 hours.
And you get, you know, when you're on the air, I don't know if it's adrenaline or whatever it is, but you're able, for the most part, Linda's having trouble now.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. For the most part.
We haven't talked like this.
It's nice to get it out.
It is.
Because when you're live and you know you have to get that information across, you're able to kind of hold that together. But you're right. It's when you go home that night. It's when you're laying there in bed. It's the next day when it hits you, and it's just like, you know.
Processing everything. Now, we go back up there, too. You were just there.
Today,
Prescott.
today.
How is it up there now? Or Yarnell?
In Yarnell. You know what? They are a tough crowd. They're a quirky crowd. They're a fun crowd, and they are survivors. When I was up with them immediately after it happened and they were told that their homes weren't there or didn't know whether their homes were there, they really focused on the loss of life and not on their own loss. But it was a tough balance because it's, oh my God, my home. And then it's like, oh my God, the 19. And then it's, what about this? And then it's, oh, the 19. So it was an emotional week for them as well because they were upset about what they'd lost, but they couldn't express it because what others in Prescott had lost in terms of life was so great that they couldn't even talk about it. So very fine line, but here we are a year later, and you know what, they're quirky. We were up there and they were kind of almost saying, you know, go away. You
Enough.
It's been a year.
Yeah. Enough
See
with you
ya,
guys.
let us move on. And I said, really? And they said, yeah, we have nothing to say.
And after this, we will move on, you know, and they're moving on as best they can.
Right.
And the families are, too. The families are so strong.
Amazing.
A lot of the families of these fallen firefighters have just, you know, they know that this is part of the process, and they were up there yesterday as the community was remembering them, and they were speaking there, and just a lot of strength in those families.
It's amazing.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. Just want to thank all of you for sharing this time with us and really for your support every day through big news stories and not so big news stories. The only way that we're able to do the jobs that we all love is from your support. So,
Absolutely.
Signing off for now.